Welcome to your next step up the self-publishing mountain.
I'm Matilda Swift, author of quintessentially British cozy mysteries.
And I'm Samantha Cummings, author of young adult books about magic, myths and monsters.
I've written the books,
Changed their covers,
tweaked their blurbs,
tried tools from a dozen ads courses.
and I'm still not seeing success.
Now, we're working together to plot and plan our way from barely making ends meet to pulling in a living wage.
Join us on our journey where we'll be mastering the pen to snag that paycheck. Hello and welcome to Pen to Paycheck Authors Podcast. I'm Matilda Swift, here with my co-host Samantha Cummings, and we're here to write our way to financial success. We're two indie authors with over a dozen books between us and still a long way to go towards the quit the day job dream. If that sounds familiar, listen along for our mastery through missteps journey. Each week we cover a topic to help along the way. This week's topic is skills from our day jobs. But before that, let's do our wins and whinges of the week. Sam, what are yours?
I've got a couple of wins this week because I'm kind of over doing whinges for the time being, pretending that everything's fine. So my first win of the week is like my progression in my mindset work that I'm doing at the moment. So as we've talked about in the past, I have a problem with money and like a fear of spending money. So this week I really tasked myself with spending and not worrying about like whether I'll have enough money at the end of the month, because I know I do. Like I know I don't live beyond my means, but I still struggle to sometimes when I go to the supermarket and I'll buy the week's shop and I'll think, oh no, that's so much money, but it's not really at the end of the day.
It's so much money though.
So
it
this
is.
week
I went shopping and it was expensive.
It is expensive, but I only really splurge on food. That's my one great spend. I don't go out. I don't really drink. Money only goes towards food, and I'm fine with that. So, this week I have kind of spent a little bit on other things as well. So I bought some truffles. Really treated myself. There was a sale on this truffle website that I'm subscribed to, which Matilda thinks is very amusing. I just love truffles. And I'm talking about like savory truffle, not chocolate truffles, savory truffles. So I bought 100 grams of truffles as a treat to myself, because
would be a really normal website to be subscribed to. Regular, like
chocolate truffles, 100% is
that's
normal.
an unusual one.
Yes, it's a very niche thing to be interested in. So I love truffle. I bought myself some truffles just for the hell of it, and have also lined up some future kind of businessy things. And I haven't spent any money on that yet, but I've kind of made the promise of spending money with somebody with like a business endeavor. And I did that. At first, I almost clicked submit to this thing that I was doing and then got scared and came off the website. And then I did a bit of talking to myself, and like worked through why I was so scared. And it just kind of happened that I was reading a book at the time, which is the Right to Riches book, which I was at a specific part which talked about like not buying things because you're scared of spending the money, and thinking that you're not worth it or something. And it really struck a chord. It was just like the right timing. So I went back and I like sent the message to get this stuff lined up. And I feel like every day I've just been reminding myself that I'm fine. Money's okay. I'm not without money, and I make money so it's okay. And then also like this week, in kind of connection to that, I've been checking my Amazon dashboard, of course, because like that's what we always do. And somebody else is binging Curse of the Wild in KU, which is the second one this month so far, which doesn't seem like a lot, but for me, like I don't really get a lot of KU reads. And recently, people have been not just like reading it, but hammering it in a day or two of reading the whole book, which is 500 odd pages. Which is just really like nice, because I wrote the book hoping it was like an easy and fun read. That was the whole point. It was like not a book to get stuck on. It was like a book that you could blast through, and it's like a really fast-paced adventure. And that's what seems to be happening. So, yay!
So
Small
exciting.
steps.
And that's not like a brand new book. So people are like, it is getting out there. It's spreading. People are cottoning on. Very exciting.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think of my win of the week. I am going to go for a whinge actually, but it's a whinge that is going to turn into a win. Um, so a couple of months ago, I got myself a chore chart because I'm trying to get rid of any sort of routine, boring thinking and decision making, like get all that stuff out of my head and try and get it just as automated and as like uninteresting and out of my brain as possible. So I got a drawer chart for my fridge. It's got all the things on, you know, cleaning wise and lifestyle wise. And then I realized I could have one for self publishing. Like, why not get those things? There are lots of things that you have to do every week. So I could put those on there. And I got it started this week. And then various things have come up and I didn't complete things on it. And I know why though. So it's sort of a whinge, but also I'm reminding myself to not
Sorry, my laptop was just going crazy. Carry on.
that's what I was talking to you. Yeah, trying to remind myself to not uh get disheartened because magic doesn't happen. So the reason why I didn't get things done is because I had not planned what I was going to do. I'd written really, really vague things like create social content as a to-do item. And
Mhm.
what I've put on my list now is on Sundays is to break down my tasks like pre-plan. So if I say I've got create social content, I don't want to come to Wednesday and have to think, oh, what social content? Let me look at my ideas, let me think about it, let me plan it. No,
Mhm.
that's exactly where I don't want to be. What I want to do is on Sundays, sit down and plan out my week. So I will look at my social content calendar and I'll say, okay, on Wednesday, I'm going to batch create all this month's content in this area. I'm also from next week. Yeah, not coming week, but the week after that. Going to weekly newsletters. So I need to be batch creating and like batch preparing stuff for that. And it can be as simple as like get all the photos together. But in my newsletter provider, you have to make the photos less than 2 megs. So one thing that annoys me every time
Mhm.
is having to find the photos, then having to compress the photos and save them in a folder. I could batch
Yeah.
do that for the month.
Mhm.
If I sit down and just write like create photos for webs for like newsletter, I wouldn't be a bit more specific. So it's a whinge that I
Yeah.
forgot that magic isn't real, and that I wouldn't just wonderfully somehow know exactly what social content to create or what newsletter information to do. But I know what I'm going to do about it from now on. So I've got my to do list in like broad tick box sense, but I need to go down every week and think, okay, thinking ahead, what do I need to do for this week? And I can do that, and I'm going to do that after this podcast. Um, and yeah, we'll be done. So I will update next week on how that's going, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I feel like a to-do list, chore chart, uh, just, voice of a generation, really. I'm going to lead the world in this area.
Yeah. I
Very excited
know.
about it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I know. I love having a to-do list and having a chart and just following a plan. Otherwise, I've said this before, I'm like Tasmanian devil, just blitzing
Hmm.
around doing whatever I feel like at the time.
Yeah,
Charts,
and it's
charts, charts.
exhausting and not
Um,
useful. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So moving on to the topic of the week, we are focusing today on our day jobs and how our day jobs have taught us skills that we use in self-publishing. I think that it's like a really fun thing to think about this because you don't tend to toot your own horn when it comes to anything. I certainly don't. I hate thinking about me being good at stuff, but you really have to train yourself to appreciate your own talents. So I'm going to let you start on your thoughts on
Hmm.
this, and then I'll steal your stuff.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of thoughts kind of before getting into the nitty gritty. One thing that I've really been thinking about this year that I'm trying to apply to my, or at least apply to my thoughts about my day job, is is really just trying to narrow down like what your own strengths are. So I think self-publishing, we talked about this way back at the beginning of the podcast, it's like there are 10,000 things you can be doing, and how do you decide? And there was a really good episode of the Spa Girls podcast that I was listening to today, which it was an old episode. I can't remember which one it was. But when someone says something, you're like, oh, that really articulates something that I've been thinking about. They were talking about different marketing strategies. And I can't really remember what they were saying specifically, but they were really just talking around the topic of like if social media exhausts you, don't do it. Like, if newsletters aren't interesting to you, don't do them. Everyone says you have to do this thing, but really everyone has got their own particular strengths. And I really planned early this year and like thought about my strengths, my own personal strengths. And a lot of this came from my day job. And thought about what do I find easy that not necessarily everyone would find easy. One thing I really like and that I'm very good at is creating teaching materials. Because I work in education and I have for a long time, even before this job, I've done sort of always related-ish jobs of like things that are teaching or at least telling information, things like marketing, and lots of communication-related jobs. My job has been to communicate information in a very clear way. So I actually love writing newsletters because I've done that forever. It's my very first job. I find it very easy. And one thing that I decided to add to my kind of self-publishing business this year was bonus material. But the idea of writing an epilogue just felt incredibly tedious and like just doing it because everyone else is doing it. So I decided to think about what bonus content I could make that would come easily to me and that would be different and that would also feed into the idea of like what my brand is. And I've made this like mini newspaper which has got tons of elements in there. It's got like sharing about different myths and local stories. It's got lots of like fun, quirky details. It's got a word search. It's got a short story, and it flows together really well. And that is something that like looks like I've made things like that in various jobs in the past. It looks complete. It looks like a real thing, and it was easy for me to make. So I think what I've been thinking about around like what skills you get from your day job is not just like what skills do you get, but obviously you've gravitated to your job for a reason. And in my job in particular, in fact, I think we're both working companies like this where we both work for relatively like medium-sized companies, which have got quite flexible attitudes to what each person does in that company. And you sort of find a job that works to your strengths. And I think actually a lot of people in self-publishing do that. Like you haven't been gravitating towards an incredibly high-powered corporate job where you must do, you know, litigation around building purchases. We've often worked for jobs where there's some sort of creativity in there and maybe looking at what you've been gravitating towards. So, like I said, I work in education, but in fact, a big chunk of my job is educational publishing, which we didn't have an educational publishing department before I started working there. But because my bosses know that I had previously worked in publishing for a very short period of time, I did marketing for a large part of Big Five publisher. I do self-publishing. Love books. I'm very detail oriented. They asked if I would set up a publishing arm, and I did, and now it's a huge part of my job. So I think it's maybe important just to kind of preface this discussion with it's worth thinking about like where have you gravitated and what do you find easy, because we also with this like it's incredibly easy to devalue what you find easy and to say like, oh, that's not important because it's everyone can do that. Everyone can speak French. Like
Yeah.
I can't speak French. If you can speak French,
Oui.
amazing. Yeah. So yeah, I think almost more than looking at like what your day job has taught you, but like what do you find easy? What people often say, or what people often come to you for in your day job, and what have you gravitated towards in your day job that you could say like, oh, I could do that in my sleep. That's not important, but like not everyone could do that. Like
Mm-hmm.
not everyone can write a newsletter. I almost find it quite hard to believe that people find it hard to write a newsletter because it's just chatting.
Yeah.
It's just chatting with your words, like pretty
To
pictures, a
yourself.
few bits of content, bing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
what
we're
do you
both
find
so
easy?
funny, so it
So
just flows.
yes, hilarious unises do find newsletters easier. But yeah,
Yeah.
so what I think about it through that lens, what are things that you find easy from your work that you have sort of applied or that you gravitate towards at work that you applied to self-publishing?
It's funny because, yeah, I hadn't really thought about the fact that I gravitated towards this job that I'm in because I was looking for something something that felt more creative. So I originally was working in it was like a pension company. So it was all like financy, pensiony stuff, which to be fair has helped me out because my financial literacy is good. So that's like a really good bonus is that I really understand
All your conversation about
pensions and
finance are about how you don't have anything organized.
No, I'm not good at like now finance, but I understand pensions and legislation, and I understand like
Wow.
good things about pensions and like all of that stuff, which is why I got hired at my current job, because my current job, well, it was originally a standalone digital marketing company. And the reason that I got hired is kind of twofold. So the first was because at that time in my life, I was blogging a lot and writing. And so I had an understanding of writing, but also blogging and websites. And as a digital marketing company, they were like, oh, great. So you understand how websites work. Brilliant. Come aboard. And their biggest client was a financial company. And because I understand pensions, they really were happy to have me on board because I would understand what the hell they were putting on their website. And so I think I take this for granted, but I know how websites work and can build a website, not from scratch because I'm not a back-end developer, but I am very much a front-end girly and can like tweak and update and edit websites easily. And I'm really great at just like learning new systems and just doing anything. Like the thing that people come to me for at work is literally like anything. I'm just like the do-it-all person. Somebody will just come to me and say, "Oh, Sam, can you figure out how this new system works and write notes how to use it?" And I'll just say yes, and I'll just do it. So
Mm.
I think because I've like always had a can-do attitude, the fact that like I work with computers all day and the internet and websites and marketing and social media, I've learned all of these things and then I always help other people with them. So I'm kind of like really useful to everybody, and that is useful to me
Mm.
because I'm not scared of trying new stuff. I'm not scared of like a
Yeah,
new
I think
system
that's
that comes
interesting as
along
in,
or
yeah. But then I think what's interesting from that then is like it would sound like you'd be someone who would have been on TikTok from the beginning. Like, is there a way for you to leverage that skill? Like, can you say, you know what, I am a great quick learner and I enjoy it and find it easy. So the next thing that I start hearing
mm-hmm,
about, I am going to jump on it from day one. And because like I am not an early adopter. I have basically recently just got a smartphone in terms of like smartphone era time. I'm not an early adopter by any stretch of the imagination. So I am never going to comfortably do that. So I'm wondering if there's things that we can say
mm-hmm,
in my day job, everyone comes to me for X. I can leverage this in my self publishing in this way.
mm-hmm. Yeah, the reason that I wasn't on TikTok originally is because I lose myself in the scroll and I didn't want
Mm,
to. So obviously when TikTok exploded, it was over lockdown. And so many of my friends were saying that they were spending hours scrolling. And to me, that was
mhm,
just like, I didn't want that addiction in my life. I already had the Instagram scrolling addiction, which I've
mhm,
managed to curb a little bit. But I knew that I would be that it would just be like too much time spent looking for inspiration. So I understand the platform. Like, I get it. I find it very easy to use. Um, it's just a time consuming thing. That's the reason why I tend not to throw myself at some things is because of how I would use it as a consumer rather than a creator.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's I think that's probably like the
I
difficult
think that's
line
like
of
that's just one
is
example though.
you.
Like maybe there's other things you can be looking for that you say like I know I am
Mm-hmm,
uncommonly good at being an early adopter and like jumping straight on the things, and I'm going to be judicious about it.
mm-hmm,
Like I'm not going to pick something that's going to be a time suck, but I'm going to say I maybe want to pick one thing out of the next five that come along that are like the hot new thing because like we there are quote unquote hot new things like direct selling is a big
mm-hmm,
thing that is like seems like very in your wheelhouse, but obviously maybe you're not there right now.
mm-hmm.
There's like direct selling, there's Kickstarter, there's subscriptions, there's short
Yes.
form, you know, text. Like there's quite a lot of new frontier things
Mm-hmm.
that me personally,
Yeah.
it would be like pulling teeth to try and get me to one of those things. Like I could do it if I thought it was going to be like really move the needle, but I really like a lot of
Hmm.
proof on something to check it's worth my time. I don't enjoy
Yeah.
like being an early adopter, but if you do, can you leverage
Oh,
that and say like,
yeah.
actually, I would find it
Yeah.
unusually, uncommonly easy to do.
Yes, I think so. I mean, something that I've always wanted to get more into is live streaming. And I do
Hmm.
watch a few people sometimes live stream, and they'll just live stream their writing session, but it just is like a community based thing, which I love.
See,
And it's
that
not
feel
a
I
huge,
feel
I know,
so
and
uncomfortable with the idea.
it fills you with absolute panic. But I have live streamed in the past, and even though the initial fear is like I might as well just be getting on stage naked, like it's like
Hmm.
it's awful how it feels when you first start. But then you have a margarita as you go, and it starts to be very cool, and it
Maybe that
feels
can be
great.
you.
And
That's you, like the
there's like
drunk
a buzz
writer.
of interacting. Yeah, like I do have like my my NaNoWriMo planning videos, which is what the live streams were, was like talking about NaNoWriMo and planning, with very much a grab a drink, let's sit down and talk, and I always had a
Hmm.
margarita in hand because tequila is just my favorite thing. So yeah, like I do feel like live streaming is definitely something, but also I would love to get a Kickstarter going, and I am thinking about
Hmm.
Kickstarter for my next standalone novel next year, because I really want to do something fancy and different. And I'd love to make it like a big deal. So I'm thinking about
Hmm.
Kickstarter next year. So yes,
I
I
feel
love the
like,
title Early Adopter.
yeah, I feel like a lot of things that you're mentioning literally just came up in an episode, not necessarily the most recent episode, an episode just into of Joanna Penn's podcast where she's talking to Rachel Herron. I'll put the link in the show notes, but I think from the sounds of it, like I think you both work in quite similar ways. So let me just make a note of that in my scrawly handwriting. Um, yeah, so I think that's maybe a useful thing to think about. Like, what are you known as the good person to do? I am also at work like a problem-solving person. I love
Mhm.
connecting different ideas. And if someone says, "Oh, we want to have this sort of project come up," uh, I will be able to figure like who do we need, what do we need, what's the timescale, because I can also then organize very well. I think that's something that I don't
Mhm.
leverage enough. I and that is maybe coming back to sort of money mindset related things like, thinking I'm worth the time to do that. Like I plan a lot of work and I run big projects at work to create big things that require a lot of moving parts, and I will have meeting schedules. I will know all the parts that we need to kick off at different points. I update people very well, and I don't treat myself this way. But I literally just watched, and this is going to sound very off topic, but it's bear with me. I literally just watched King Richard, the movie about Serena and Venus Williams' father,
Mhm.
and it was. I mean, I'm a real sucker for that sort of film, like that sort of film about someone who
Oh,
just like sets out with a
sports
dream and then
films.
makes it big.
Yeah.
Love it. But that one I think is the
Yeah.
perfect example for self-published authors, because Richard Williams was nobody. Like just a guy who saw someone on TV earn a lot of money from tennis and thought, well, I could do that. And he wrote a plan. He talks about the plan all the time. It's like a 76-page plan or 78-page plan that he wrote about how to make Wimbledon champions, like world champion tennis players. He is not a person who was coming from a big background in tennis. He just
Mhm.
researched, made a plan, and followed through on the plan. And it's not like he and his wife were like perfect physiques for making tennis players. They were just two regular people. And if someone wrote this as fiction, in no situation could you make it believable that he would then turn out the two best tennis players of all time, basically. That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. And it is just such a good reminder that you can just decide to do something and do it. And that is like all self-publishing
Mhm.
is being like, I am going to believe in myself and I'm going to make a plan and I'm just going to keep going with the plan. And I think I
Mhm.
could and possess the skills that I practice all the time at work, possess the skills to make a plan like Richard Williams made, and then just see it through and do it.
Yeah.
And I don't do that because
Right.
I don't have that level of self-belief. I don't know how he did it either. Who knows how he maintained that self-belief for just decades and decades to get there? And it was
Yeah,
so
but
incredible to watch.
he obviously believed in his own intellect, and
Mm.
I think that's, well, I mean, that's, it's a man's world, isn't it? So like, there's nothing to tell men that their ideas
Yeah, but it's
aren't
not a
gonna
black man's
do
world.
the
Like he
thing.
definitely, and he didn't come from money.
But it's
And I
not.
think it was such a good
No.
example of someone who was in no way set up to succeed, and he just decided to and did it. And
Hmm.
there's definitely problematic
Yeah.
aspects to his character, but really, he had nothing but belief. Like there was nothing in the world that made it
Right.
that like set him up for success.
But what you need to do is, like, look at what you do for other people. Like, you're a perfect project manager.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a brief, and you could set up a timeline and a budget plan, and
Mm-hmm.
you can have like pinch points in a project where things need to get done, and you contact this person here, and you contact this, and you work towards a deadline. You're just not looking at yourself as a
Mm-hmm.
client. You're looking at yourself as yourself. You're too close to it. But you need
Yeah.
to really figure out how to look at yourself as like your own brand manager. You're like, as your own manager. You need to
Mm-hmm.
manage yourself. Maybe give yourself
Yeah,
a
and I think
different
that's the
name.
benefit of having a pen name. Yeah, but I do have pen names. That's
Yeah.
the benefit of it. Like, I should be able to sit back and think, okay, what am I doing for the Matilda Swift project? I sometimes
Hmm.
think about creating a fake assistant, which I know some people do, and making like a fake assistant email address
Yes.
and making them email
Hmm.
people. I think that would work well for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I realistically, literally nothing but self-belief is holding me back from project managing my way to success because I practice it all
Yes.
the time in my day job. And it's not even like
Hmm.
I tell myself at the time, right? I tell myself like, oh, I'd really need to sit down and like look at everything and plan out everything. But in my day job, I work for quite a chaotic company, and chaotic in a good way, as in we make 10,000 things happen with the resources to make 1,000 things happen. And we are always moving and always like, like a shark, like never stopping. Everything's always going. And
Yeah.
the project that I was just talking about, thinking about that's getting kicked off is one of a dozen similar things I'm doing alongside non-project based stuff. Like if I gave myself the same amount of time that I'm giving myself for this new project I've just started, it's a couple of hours a week, and all I have to do is just like commit to doing it. And I just
Hmm.
don't have that belief. I don't have the like King Richard level of
Hmm.
belief, and I that's all I need. That's all that's holding me back. I
Yeah.
will do it.
So you obviously have your real name. You've got your real
Hmm.
name. You've got your pen name. You could
Hmm.
create a fake assistant, and maybe create a fake manager. Like, where when you sit at your desk, you think to yourself, I am, insert name here. And then
Yeah.
start
Or I have
tasking,
got
start throwing tasks
Venus
out.
Serena Williams dad hanging over me. Like, what's he
Yeah.
going to make me do?
Yes. Yeah, like I have, this might be a me thing, but I have a persona in my head, which when I have to do things that kind of scare me, I think, what would this persona of mine, what would they do? Like, they're not scared of that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
why am I going to be scared of that? And that might be a sign of delusion. I don't know, but it was really helpful.
In a book that I read recently, or like a podcast I can't remember what it was, and it really annoys me because it was such a sweet example. There was a woman character, and she had this thing that her mum had taught her to do, that like when she couldn't do stuff, and like she really felt like she couldn't do it, she'd be like, oh, it's okay, Greta can do it. And Greta is just a person inside her. It's like, yeah, Greta can do that. And then
That's
Greta comes out and does it.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think,
literally what I do.
yeah. I was like, yeah, I
Oh,
should be my own
I'm glad it's
Greta.
not
So like,
just me.
yeah, Greta can do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You do. You just have to have this person who lives inside you who can do anything, and
Thing is, I think I'm
yeah,
that
and then
person,
just
and then I
channel them
just
every time
lose
you need
faith
them.
sometimes.
No, you need like a completely like over the top. Like, you've seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a stupid question.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, so you
I've
need
watched
to
it.
have um yeah what's she called, like the grumpy one? Like her name is escaping my mind
Like,
now.
like a Rosa.
Um yeah, Rosa, thank you. Like you need to have like a Rosa who you think Rosa would literally just like walk in and like kick a door down and do anything. Just
I
that have
also
that
love that
version
she's
of
the
you.
voice of
Like imagine
the person in
yourself.
Encanto.
Yes, her voice, her real like natural voice is so soft and sweet, and she puts on that
Mm-hmm.
voice. So yeah, just have that really badass version of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and life's easy.
But also, like at work, I am that version of myself because I'm grumpy, and I'm like, "You're late on this. Like, you need to get this
Yeah,
in. I will copy on your boss right now." I am not. I'm not kind. I'm like, get stuff done,
yeah,
but I don't. I
hmm
think I don't want to be mean to myself is the problem. But I need to find a way to like separate and get a better perspective on things and hold myself
hmm
accountable, right? I think as long as I don't make the plan, I'm not failing to fulfill the plan. So I don't make the plan.
hmm
But I could do it. I yeah, I'm on that.
yes,
I'm gonna utilize that skill. Um
yeah.
what about you? What are other things that you can be utilizing?
Um, I'm just gonna look through my little list that I made. I don't really have many more. I mean, I do think that my Photoshop
Mm-hmm.
ability and my kind of design ability is good. I know there are people that really struggle to make graphics and things. My only
Mm-hmm.
struggle is that I have too many ideas for them and I've got so many started. But I've been using Photoshop or a variation of Photoshop since I was about 10 years old. Like I'm basically what my boyfriend Brian, whenever I do anything on a computer or fix anything, he's like, and it's because you're, and I have to fill in the blank, which is a whiz kid. So I'm like, I have been on a computer for as long as possible, and I have played on Photoshop since I got access to it, and I use it in my day job.
Mm-hmm.
I create graphics. We have like a graphic designer, but I like make little things and edit stuff, and I love making graphics for my books. I love making little quote blocks, and I really need to spend more time doing that. I have so many ideas for things that I want to do, and I save so many like inspiration posts that I see other people doing on Instagram, and then I get stuck in the scroll. So I think like using my creative eye and my absolute love for creating graphics for my books. So I think that I should really lean more into that.
I feel like thinking about this is a bit like, you know, when you buy an expensive course and you think, I really have to make
Mm,
use of that. Like, I have to do the course and make use of it. I think it's maybe useful to think about like your day job skills that way. I'm like, I've invested a lot of time in
mm,
becoming very good at this thing that I take for granted and is actually incredibly a rare and useful talent. Like the graphic stuff, like most self-published
hmm
authors, you know, are pretty atrocious on that front. Because most people are. I think I have also always had jobs where I have to do some level of graphic things, and I think I am um like relatively able to pick out a bad graphic. And I like
hmm
playing with graphics, but I think there's points where I I get stuck. I'm like, oh, I know I don't like that, but I don't know how to improve it. I can't. I'm at my limit now. Um, I do think maybe thinking about your day job is a good way to uh stop yourself feeling like you're swimming upstream, which I think self-publishing can often feel like when you're trying to work out advertising,
Yeah.
like Amazon ads. It feels like you're swimming upstream, which is maybe fine to do sometimes. Oh, sorry. It's maybe fine to do sometimes, but it's very energetically draining. And I think it's maybe useful to think about your day job and how you can use it to swim downstream. So, like, if you're uncommonly good at graphics, like, how can you leverage that? Is it worth you spending 1 hour extra per week to make more social posts, utilizing those graphic skills? Would that be a useful every time over, for example, trying to figure out a new ads platform or trying to, you know, understand Kickstarter, for example? It's not a great example because I think will be useful for you as well. But yeah, I think this might be something I want to keep thinking about, like, how can I swim downstream? And that felt really helpful when I was thinking about my bonus material, when I planned to do this newsletter, this like fake newspaper, really felt like swimming downstream, because it's like all things that I not only find easy, but I'm good at and I enjoy. And multiple people have said to me, "Oh, how did you make that? Can you send me a copy? Can I have a look at it?" Other authors. And I know not everyone could do it. And I know not everyone would find it easy or fun. So I need to be leaning in more to things that I find easy and fun, rather than always trying to be like, "Oh, I have to know ads, so let me learn ads. Let me spend,
Yeah.
time not learning ads even." I listened to a podcast recently with Stephanie Holmes talking about how she spent 2 years telling herself, "I must learn Amazon ads. Everyone says it's more effective when you do the ads yourself, so I must learn Amazon ads or Facebook ads, couple ads." It was like she spent 2 years being like, "I can't do it until I've learned it." And it takes some time and it's hard. And then she got 2 years down the line, she's like, "Well, I haven't done it. So I'm just going to pay someone to do it because I'm never going to do it." And that is the kind of swimming upstream versus downstream thing that I think I want to be a bit more aware of, rather than trying to waste time on the upstream. Oh, I've got an
Yeah.
unusual noise in my ear. Can you hear some
I
crackling?
don't know why I lean forward and I've got headphones in, but no, I can't hear anything.
Okay, just me. All right. Yeah. Is there anything else then from your day job that you think I could use that to swim downstream more? Like you use Facebook ads?
Um, I mean, there's probably plenty of things. Like, I don't find it difficult talking to new people or like emailing people and asking
Mm-hmm.
people to do particular things and like doling out tasks to people. I don't find interacting with other people in any way difficult. In fact, I quite enjoy it. I quite like um, talking to people about jobs and having like setting up work relationships and things. I find that very easy, and I think that that is a skill that I
Mm-hmm.
never really think is a skill. But obviously, like a lot of authors, not just indie, but like trad published as well, are not social people, and I I tell myself I'm not a social person because I am an introvert, but I'm a social introvert. So I love spending
Mm-hmm.
time on my own. But I am fine in a room of people. And that is definitely something that I should really try and trust myself on more. There is in
Mm-hmm.
my town there is a writing festival, which there was one last year. It's like it just started last year. And I went to the one last year and I felt like I shouldn't be there as a visitor. Like I should really have been there as somebody like an authoritative voice. And the one that
Mm-hmm.
is on this year, which I think maybe was this weekend, and I didn't go on purpose. Um, it's because I didn't want to go as a visitor because I feel like I should be
Mm-hmm.
there, like involved. So I actually messaged them and said, like, I am actually a local writer. Like, maybe I should be involved in this. And so I'm kind of on a path to maybe being involved in the next year's one because I know that I could do that, and that's quite a fun and scary thing. But
Mm-hmm.
like, but I could do that.
Yeah, but also you could do that much bigger, right? Like you could do that
Oh yeah, yeah,
in other spaces. Because lots of people, like when I talk about
yes,
this podcast as well, I think a lot of people talk about, or they seem like they would find that intimidating. And I love having this podcast. I think it
mm-hmm.
is really an easy way to engage with somebody. And I have been on other podcasts before, and in fact a couple of things, and it's fine. It's nice having a chat like this. But I think a lot of people are not comfortable. Like maybe I know you're talking about sending out some things to communicate with book bloggers soon. Uh, a lot of people are not great at that at all. Like, is there more that you can be doing to leverage that and like more communication? Could you be doing more videos as yourself? You do a lot of like on trend social media posting, but could you be doing more that's like you talking, you going live, things like that?
Yeah, I think that's it doesn't work on Instagram, which is why on Instagram I post silly videos because my talky videos on Instagram don't tend to hit anything, like they just fall
Mm-hmm.
flat. But TikTok is where I do more talky stuff, and that gets a lot more traction. So that is something
Mm-hmm.
like I bought myself a little tiny mic,
Mm-hmm.
because gotta get on that new tech. So I got a tiny mic, and I have a plan, a new tripod as well for my phone, and do have a plan to do more direct talking to people about books and just like what it's like being an indie author, because the audience on TikTok is there and they're ready, they love it. So yeah, I need to get on that. That's a Q3 goal.
Okay. The other thing I was thinking about was, I guess, thinking about people who are listening to this. Are there ways in which you would change your job, or wish you'd done differently in your job, or could be planning now to do different in your job, that would be more beneficial as an indie author?
I don't think so. In my job at the moment, because I'm a bit of a, we got taken over by a bigger company a couple of years ago, and my role, whilst remained, my title remained, but my role drastically changed, and so I have a really weird title that doesn't actually reflect what I do at work. So we are actually trying to get me into a project manager role, and for me to learn how to project manage stuff. And that is something that I'm really heavily pushing out for my manager to say, give me the job role, only because I want to get a pay rise, but also because I want them to pay for a course for me to do so that I can then use that in my writing life.
Yeah.
Grab the opportunities when you can.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what I would change. I think one thing actually that I keep thinking about my work at the moment is my work feels really tiring. I've been at the same company for maybe about 12 years, which sounds crazy. How could I think I was down the mines as a child. It can't be that long. But because of that, I've just picked up dozens and dozens of things I still work on that I've been working on forever. So my job is very bitty in a way that I think it feels tiring. I know where everything is at work. I know who to connect with whom, and that is something I'm very good at. But it's also tiring to kind of keep. I feel sometimes like a computer or a directory. And that is my strength. I think that is the reason why I get paid what I get paid. I'm good at knowing this. I'm good at problem solving. I'm good at connecting ideas together to fix things across the company. But it is feeling really tiring, and I don't quite know at the moment how to resolve that. I had a conversation with the directors recently about kind of narrowing my role down, but I just still do have dozens and dozens of things that are I touch on. And I think that
Yeah,
is one thing that
I've been there.
yeah, in my job, times I felt less tired when I was maybe doing more work, but incredibly focused on one project. So we had a tight
Yeah,
deadline for a really, really big project to do with publishing. I dropped everything else and I was working long days. I was really focusing on editing in depth. But because I had that flow state. So I think I I don't know how to resolve it at work, but maybe it's a good thing for me just to keep in mind and have learned through the work process is that I need to orient myself around having periods of flow and not be doing lots of very, very bitty things. And maybe if I can find a way to bring that into my self publishing. So when I'm looking at my scheduling, make sure that I am kind of blocking things together, grouping stuff deliberately, not having lots and lots of
yeah.
task jumping and lots of little small things, because I know from my day job that is just exhausting to me and makes me just not want to do anymore. And it's not the job, right? It's not the job itself. There's parts of my job that I really enjoy there's nothing I would change about my actual content of my job. It is just um the fatigue it feels from just doing lots and lots of small things. So I need to make sure that I'm not carrying that across to my publishing.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I've been there. My last job, which I was at for 12 years before I moved to this place, was the same. I've been there so long that I was a contact for so many different people, and
Mm-hmm.
I had my own department, and I didn't get paid well. I basically ran my own department and fixed everything for people, and
Mm-hmm.
um, that turned into like people just come, and this was like whilst doing my day job, people would come to me to then fix things for them, and there was so much, and it was so constant that eventually I had to leave because I was just doing so much work for so little money and so little respect, that I was just like, I mean, and I annoyingly, I still remember basically everything about that job. And my boyfriend works at the same company, and sometimes he asks me questions and I still remember because I'm a whiz kid. So like when he asks me about like the systems and stuff, like how to do something on the system, he'll text me and say, do you remember like how to do this? And I'll text him back, yes, here, do this.
Yeah.
And but yeah,
I mean,
it's
I've
so
been living
difficult to
out in a
have
different
so
country
much.
to my office for like 5 years now,
Yeah.
or 4 years. I still be like, oh, can you go to this shelf? That's where you'll find this thing that you need. And it's in my head. It's taking
It's
space in my head.
tiring. That is really tiring because
Yeah.
when you're focused on one task, you are getting just to like use like a laser sharp implement, and like you just focus on one thing, and it's really nice to focus on one thing. But when you have just people firing questions at you, and you're like putting out fires all over the place while still trying to do your day job, it's exhausting. Basically, babysitting other adults is exhausting, and babysitting tiny different projects that you've got on is exhausting. So, yeah,
And a lot of
can't wait for.
I think. So I was gonna say on the babysitting, like a lot of interpersonal hand holding. I've been like be able to say like, oh, you can go to this meeting. Just make sure you treat this person this way and this person this way to get things done. Yeah, and I will be glad to at some point not have that when it's a fresh start and it's just me and there's me and Greta and the King Richard, my imaginary manager. Yeah, it would be much easier when it's just me and my imaginary friends.
You need to have pictures of these people. Yeah. I want to see pictures of them. Like I've got Nicolas Cage behind me. I need to see pictures of like any King Richard on the wall behind you and Greta.
Yeah. Okay. I think I can do that. I think that sounds very doable. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe the behind me on the wall is a zebra vase head. Maybe I will just make that one of my characters. And the zebra can tell me what to do.
So, you're great at using your imagination, so yeah.
All right. I think a lot of things to think about. Interesting. I thought this conversation would be really simple, but actually it's really expanded into lots of different areas that I think I'm going to keep pondering and like keep factoring into my ongoing thoughts about self-publishing. So very helpful, hopefully helpful to listen to as well, even though I feel like we've meandered a lot, but I think we've touched on a lot of things that maybe people can also reflect on themselves. Next week, what are we doing? Oh, we are leaving our series on real life versus writing, and we're doing a standalone episode on things that we've tried that haven't worked, which I'm looking forward to. Very different from today, like really just things in self-publishing that we've tried and haven't worked. Maybe why they haven't. Whether we do them again, what we do going forwards. I don't initially have any thoughts on this. I must have done when we set the topic, but I don't right now. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I think that at this stage, I feel like everything I've done hasn't worked, but that's only looking at it through like the lens of being a millionaire author. But I'm like, we've talked about this so many times, that I'm such like a stupidly positive mindset person that I don't tend to focus on things that don't work, and I just throw things away and carry on regardless. So I think I don't have any thoughts, like I don't have any specific examples right now, but I think it'll be good for me to like look in the rear view and like see the lessons that I've learned and like ponder on them for a bit, because you can't just storm ahead for the sake of it.
Yeah. So, keep things moving. I guess at this stage you probably can. I think the thing that I'm going to suggest, and I'm putting this in the show notes, listening to before next week, because I think it gives some good sparking of some ideas. There's a new podcast by Ellie Alexander, the cozy author, who is mostly trad but does some indie and does a lot of very smart digital marketing herself, and is very adventurous with her marketing efforts. She has just started a podcast. It's called Reality Writes, and that's Writes, WRITES. And episode number 2 was called Will It Stick? Book Marketing. And in there, she reflects quite a lot on different things that she works with her husband on these, different things that she and her husband have done. And they are all incredibly detailed, laborious things that they have done, whether or not they had any effect. And spoiler alert, it seems like most of them did not. But the thing that she reflects on in it is about how even if the individual thing didn't necessarily have an outcome that you would say, oh, I did X and it got Y, almost always she was talking about things that she had learned from that and taken forward in a new way, or it had an unexpected pivot to benefit in another way. So I think it's worth listening to that podcast, and thinking about that when reflecting on your own things of like, oh, this thing that I did had no impact, but actually it made me realize I want to do this thing instead. So I think I'm going to try and think about like that. I have listened to that podcast episode, but I think I will listen to it again because it was. It was the first episode I listened to on that podcast, and I went in not really with an expectation, and it was a really interesting episode. Yeah, and well worth listening to. So I will put a link in the show notes, and I would recommend Reality Writes. I think Ellie Alexander is a very interesting and engaging person, and she is both on the writer side and she does coaching for authors, and she is just someone who is very like out loud with their marketing efforts, like does tons of interesting, engaging things and really, really wants to engage with her readers. She, does like baking videos and tours around her town and all sorts of weird, interesting competitions. So interesting to see her thinking behind them and the outcome she has considered to have. Obviously, she doesn't talk numbers in it because she is mostly a trad author, so there's very little she can actually see in terms of how it moved the needle, but she's reflecting often on the more immediate outcomes in terms of did people even engage with it online. So yes, a good one to listen to, and I'll listen to that again and think about what didn't work for next week. I'm sure I've got plenty of ideas when I sit down and reflect on them. So I will speak to you then.
Speak to you then. Thank you very much for everyone listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.
You've been listening to Pen to Paycheck Authors.
Stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to subscribe to learn how to write your way to financial success.